Have you ever lived in a place where even to cough, you had to ask permission? Where you couldn't name your child, plant your yam, or even fall in love, without first telling the witches? That was Okuta village. A place where the witches ruled with fear, and one wrong step could mean death. But one day, a boy named Obinna did something no one had ever done. He broke their rule. And what happened next shocked the entire village. In the heart of the eastern forest, surrounded by tall Irako trees and red earth, there was a village called Okuta. The village was peaceful, but it was also terrifying. Not because of wild animals, not because of wars, but because of the 7 witches. No one knew their real names. People only called them Mama Age, Aya Akpaka, Ezenwanyi, and 4 others whose faces were always covered in black cloth. They controlled everything. Before a woman gave birth, she had to tell the witches. Before a boy could marry, he had to ask the witches. Even when a goat died, people would run to the shrine to report it. Because anyone who didn't would either go mad, go missing, or die in their sleep. That's what happened to Uchenna, the farmer who didn't tell the witches before harvesting his yam. They found him naked and stiff, his mouth full of dust. So no one dared disobey. Obinna was 17. He was the son of a widow, Mamakem. They were poor, very poor. But Obinna had dreams. He wanted to leave the village, go to the city, and become a builder. Every evening, he would climb the hill outside Okuta and whisper to the wind, "I want a life that's bigger than fear." His mother always warned him, "Obinna, fear keeps us alive. Don't speak like that again." But Obinna was different. He didn't believe the witches were all powerful. He believed they used fear to control the village. Then one day, something happened that changed everything. Obinna fell in love with a girl named Adora. She was kind, beautiful. They wanted to marry. But to marry in Okuta, you had to first go to the witches, kneel, and beg for permission. Then, you had to pay them with 2 goats, 3 chickens, and a calabash of blood palm oil. Obinna had nothing. He told Adora, "Let's marry in secret. Let's not tell the witches." Adora was scared. "If they find out, we'll both die." But Obinna looked into her eyes and said, "Then let us die in love, not live in fear." So, under the full moon, with only a few friends and his mother present, Obinna and Adora got married near the river. No witches, no rituals, no permission. The next morning, the village woke up to a loud cry from the sky. Thunder roared, but there was no rain. A strange wind began to blow, only over Obinna's house. People ran out of their homes. Some started shouting, "Who broke the rule? Who angered the witches?" Then came Mama Age, walking with her long stick. Her eyes were red. Her tongue flicked like a snake. She stood before Obinna's hut and shouted, "Who joined in marriage without our word?" Obinna stepped forward. His hands were shaking, but his voice was firm. "I did. I will no longer live under fear." The villagers gasped. Even the trees seemed to go quiet. The youngest witch, her face still covered, whispered, "Then he must face the test." That night, they dragged Obinna into the forest. No one dared follow. Not even his mother. The next morning, the witches returned alone. They said nothing. No one knew what happened to Obinna. His hut was empty. His footprints stopped at the edge of the forest. No blood, no body, just silence. Adora still wore her wedding beads. She never remarried. Every month, she would go to the hill and place flowers there. Some said they saw a shadow moving in the forest at night, tall and silent. Some said the youngest witch stopped covering her face, and that her eyes looked just like Obinna's. But no one dared ask. No one dared break the rule again. Until one little boy, just 12 years old, climbed the hill and shouted, "I don't fear you witches. I want to go to the city too." And the wind answered. 1 year passed. The fear in Okuta village grew stronger than ever. People whispered now more than they spoke. Every rooster that crowed at the wrong time was blamed on a spirit. Every sudden illness, blamed on a curse. But one boy wasn't afraid. His name was Sakura. He was just 12. Small, skinny, always barefoot. Zikora's father was a hunter who had died trying to set traps too close to the witch's forest. His mother sold firewood. They barely ate. But Zikora had courage and questions. Every time someone mentioned Obinna, Zikora would ask, "But what if he's alive? What if the witches didn't kill him?" And they would always answer the same. "Keep quiet, Zikora. You want to disappear too?" But one evening, just as the sun was falling behind the hills, Zikora climbed to the same hill where Obinna used to sit. And for the first time, the wind spoke back. Zikora stood on the hill. He closed his eyes. "Obinna," he whispered, "if you can hear me, tell me what happened." Nothing. Then a breeze passed. Soft at first, then stronger. It circled him like a dance. Then the wind carried a voice, but not loud, not angry. A whisper. The forest never kills, it reveals. Zikora's heart pounded. He opened his eyes wide. "Obinna? Are you alive?" No answer. Just the wind, fading again. The next day, before the rooster crowed, Zikora packed a small calabash of water, a piece of roasted yam, a charm from his late father, and a tiny wooden flute. Then he walked to the forest. The same forest the witches had taken Obinna into. Villagers saw him. They screamed, "Zikora, where are you going? Are you mad?" But he didn't stop. He didn't look back. The forest opened for him and swallowed him whole. Inside the forest, it was quiet, too quiet. No birds, no insects, only the sound of his own heartbeat. Then he came to a fork. 3 paths. One was covered in fire. One was covered in thorns. One was covered in white feathers. A voice whispered again, "Choose wrong and you'll never return." Zikora closed his eyes. He remembered Obinna's words. "Let us die in love, not live in fear." So he walked into the path with thorns. It cut his feet. He bled, but he kept going. After walking for what felt like hours, he entered a clearing. Faces hung from trees. Not real heads, just faces made of leaves, mud, and ash. Each face spoke. Each one told a secret. "I was the girl who tried to leave the village. I was the boy who prayed without asking them. I was Obinna." Zikora turned. One of the faces looked just like Obinna. It blinked and said, "I'm not dead, Zikora. I became something else. Something they fear." Zikora fell to his knees. "Then help us. The village is dying. The witches are growing stronger." Obinna's face smiled. "I've been waiting for someone like you. Someone who still believes in truth." Then the face faded, and the ground below Zikora cracked open. Zikora screamed as the earth gave way. But instead of hitting the ground, he landed on soft grass. He opened his eyes slowly, and what he saw was unbelievable. He wasn't in a forest anymore. He was in an underground kingdom. There were trees that glowed in the dark, water that flowed upward, and houses carved into giant rocks. Then he saw him, Obinna, alive, stronger, but different. His eyes were silver, his skin carried symbols, and his voice sounded like the wind itself. Obinna stepped forward and smiled. Some say he became the wind. Others say the forest crowned him king. But all agree on one thing. He was the boy who dared to break the rule and gave his life to free a village. "Welcome, Zikora. I knew you would come." Zikora ran and hugged him, crying. "They said you died. They said the witches." Obinna raised his hand gently. "The witches didn't kill me. They tried, but they failed. When they sent me into the forest, they didn't know they were sending me home." Zikora looked confused. "Home?" Obinna nodded. "There is a truth your village has forgotten. A power older than the witches. It lives under the forest. It protects the brave. It punishes fear." Zikora looked around. "Then why haven't you returned to Okuta?" Obinna's face turned serious. "Because I needed someone who still believed. Someone who could carry the truth back." That night, Obinna led Zikora to a fire circle in the heart of the hidden land. Other people were there, people the village thought were dead. Old warriors, lost children, mothers who vanished. They were alive. All of them. They had found refuge beneath the fear. This is the true Okuta, Obina said. And now it's time to rise. They placed a mark on Zikora's hand, the symbol of courage. A small flame appeared on his skin, but it didn't burn. It felt like strength. You will return to the village, Obina said. But not the same. Zikora asked, what about the witches? Obina looked up at the roots of the trees above them. They feel us now. They know we are coming. Far above, in the real Oku, the 7 witches were restless. Mama Age stood in the shrine. Her staff shook. The fire turned blue. He's awake, she whispered. And he's not alone. The youngest witch, the one who always stayed silent, stood up and said something for the first time in years. Zikora has entered the hidden. He bears the mark now. All the witches looked at her in shock. Who spoke? Mama Age asked. The girl removed her veil slowly. And underneath was a face no one expected. A familiar face. It was Ada, Obina's wife. Alive. And watching everything. When Ada Ora pulled off her black veil in the witch's shrine, silence fell like a heavy cloud. Even the flames stopped flickering. Mama Age stepped back, confused. You died with him. Ada Ora looked directly at her. No, I lived. And I saw things that broke me, then rebuilt me. The other witches began whispering among themselves. Why hide among us? Adora's voice was steady. Because the enemy isn't who you think it is. Back in the hidden kingdom, Obina took Zikora to a sacred tree made of glass. It was said to be the first tree planted by the ancestors of Okuta before the witches took control. He placed his hand on the tree. It lit up. Zikora did the same. The ground shook. The mark is real now, Obina said. You're ready to return. Zikora asked, but how will I face them? They'll kill me before I speak. Obina replied, not if someone from inside protects you. Back in the shrine, Mama Age stared into her dark calabash, watching Zikora touch the tree. She turned to Adora. You betrayed us. You helped him survive. And now you protect the boy. Adora didn't blink. Because I remember the old Okuta. The one before fear. Mama Age raised her staff, ready to strike. But the other witches didn't move. Even they were beginning to question everything. Adora stepped forward. You can kill me. Or you can listen. Mama Age paused. And for the first time in over 30 years, she lowered her staff. The next morning, smoke rose from the forest. Not the smoke of fire, but white smoke, rising straight and tall into the air. The village elders gathered. It's a sign, one said. But from who? Just then, Zikora stepped out of the forest. He looked different. Older. Braver. The crowd gasped. Mama Nene, the oldest woman in the village, stepped forward. Did you see the witches? Zikora smiled softly. No. I saw something older than them. And I've come with a message. Zikora climbed the old stone at the center of Oku. My name is Zikora, son of a hunter. I went into the forest not to fight, but to find truth. And what I found was the lie we've lived under for generations. The villagers were silent. Even the children sat still. The witches aren't the gods. They're just gatekeepers, and some of them have forgotten what they were meant to protect. He raised his hand. The mark glowed. Some elders fell to their knees. Some shouted, it's a trick. But many just stared. Then he said something that no one expected. Obina is alive. Gasps filled the air. And in the distance, the forest began to hum. That night, Ada Ora sat alone at the edge of the shrine. She whispered, they know now. The boy lit the spark. Another witch approached. Will they follow him? Ada Ora looked up at the full moon. They will, because fear only wins until truth speaks. Then she pulled out a small bag. Inside was her old wedding bead, still glowing. She kissed it and whispered, I'm coming, Obina. The villagers gathered under the big baobab tree. Zikora stood before them with the mark glowing in his palm. The hidden kingdom is real, he said, and the time of fear must end. More and more people stepped forward. Some cried, some smiled, others held their children tightly, whispering, maybe our children won't have to bow to fear. But deep inside the forest, the earth groaned. The ancestors had been disturbed. Back at the witch's shrine, Ada Ora stood before Mama Age. They know. And they are ready. Mama Age didn't blink. Her voice was soft, almost tired. Then let them come. But tell them this. The forest doesn't only keep secrets. It also keeps balance. And balance always demands a price. Ada Ora felt a cold wind pass through her bones. What price? Mama Age's old eyes met hers. One soul must stay, so the rest can be free. That night, thunder cracked across the sky. Obinna emerged from the forest. He stood beside Zikora as the people cheered. Tears ran down faces. Drums beat softly. Obinna raised his hand. My people, I am not a ghost. I am your son, and I am ready to lead you home. The witches began to appear one by one. Even Mama Age stood before the crowd. Zikora stepped forward. No more fear. No more secrets. Mama Age nodded slowly. Then let the forest decide. A fire was lit at the edge of the forest. A large stone sat in the center. Mama Age, Zikora, Ada Ora, and Obinna stood in a circle. A voice echoed from deep within the forest. To break fear, one must give all. One must stay. Forever. The wind blew hard. Obinna stepped forward. I'll stay. Zikora shouted. No. You already gave everything. Let me do it. Ada Ora dropped to her knees. Please, not again. Not after finding you. But Obinna smiled, tears in his eyes. The forest chose me once. Let it have me fully now. He kissed Ada Ora's hand, hugged Zikora, then walked into the forest. 2 steps. Gone. The wind went silent. The trees stopped moving. And then, the sky cleared. The mark on Zikora's hand disappeared. The witches removed their veils and slowly faded into the night. Fear was gone. But so was Obinna. The village was free. For the first time in 100 years, people named their children without fear. They planted yam, married freely, and danced again. But every year, on the same night, Ada Ora would go to the edge of the forest. She would place flowers there and whisper to the trees. He gave us freedom, but the price was everything.